All right, good morning, everybody. We're going to move and discuss the rubric briefly. I hope that you found the deconstruction practice beneficial to you, especially trying to get acclimated to it. Remember, there was no pressure on that. It's our first time out the gate. So on Zoom today, I would like your feedback on the process. Was it beneficial? Was it something that you're still confused about or need more practice? And if you're not able to attend Zoom today, feel free to email me or send me a message on Schoology, just so that way we can start figuring out, maybe can we simplify this, or is it something that you just need more practice with? Because I can definitely make that possible. So we're going to look at the synthesis rubric, and today I really recommend printing it if you can, or downloading it and saving it to your desktop. But you'll notice that the reporting categories are the same. You have row A, row B, and row C. They're always going to be thesis, evidence and commentary, and sophistication. There are some highlighted points that I do want to briefly discuss because there are major changes. So obviously, the thesis point is always going to be the same in that it needs to present a defensible position. And remember, defensible simply means you're addressing whatever the prompt is asking. So in a rhetorical analysis, it is the rhetorical choices made by the author. In a synthesis, it's going to be they're going to ask you for a really specific type of opinion. So in the monuments one, it was about factors, right? And you had to kind of inform yourself and synthesize an argument that kind of you thought were the highest or the most important factors. So you'll see here that to not earn this point, it does not take a position, or it is vague and has to be inferred. You have to be very explicit. You could either summarize other arguments that are not by the student. So, for example, some people say this and some people say that in your sources, right? Because that's essentially what it is. You have to say a position. It doesn't matter what all these people are saying. It matters what you feel now after educating yourself through the sources are the most important factors, or whatever items to consider, any of that. Or state an obvious fact rather than making a claim that requires a defense, right? Everyone knows that, what would be it? Everyone knows that monuments are important, or something of that respect, right? Clearly, that's not defensible. So on the right side, responses that earn this point, they respond to the prompt rather than restate or rephrase, and it takes a position. So there's going to be something you're answering, right? Which is why we have you take the prompt and turn it into questions. These are very similar, right? It may be more than one sentence. It may occur anywhere in the essay, and it may do certain things where, like, maybe the thesis doesn't match the rest of the essay. It doesn't matter. You're only getting a point for the thesis, not your thesis essentially in the context of the essay as a whole. And all of these essentially will do that. So your thesis is just your thesis, not does the essay prove it, right? That really comes into the evidence and commentary. And so you'll see here, remember I told you you cannot score higher than a 2 if you do not support your reasoning with a minimum of 3 sources. So right here, you'll see summarizing the sources, focusing on that, irrelevant text evidence, repeated information, fewer than 2 would be 0. So if you don't even use 2 at all, you will not score any points on the reporting category. Here, this is at least 2 is the 1 point. Score point 3 does say 3, which is why I said if you don't use that, you will not score higher than a 2, right? So if you only use 2, 1 is the point you will get. No matter how well you use those 2 sources, it doesn't matter. It's right here, at least 2 of the provided sources, and 3 would be a score point 2. So even using 3 doesn't necessarily guarantee you a qualifying score, but that doesn't show that you need 4 to earn a 3 or a 4 on this row either. But you'll notice here explains how some of the evidence relates to the argument, but no line of reasoning is established. And that is basically where your claims don't support your thesis. May contain some simplistic, inaccurate, or repetitive explanations, meaning sometimes you might summarize your evidence and other times you might use them to support your argument. And then do not make multiple supporting claims. So this is where you maybe only have one body paragraph with one claim. Like it says here, do not adequately support more than one claim. Here has more than one claim, right? It'll say multiple, but you may fail to integrate some of your evidence that is necessary to support a key claim. And then here, again, it's all some, right? Some evidence, some line of reasoning. Support all claims here would be one. So if you have at least two claims and you have evidence for both of them, and you do it well, right? Focuses on specific importance of words and details from the sources to build an argument. You'll notice 3 and 4 is nowhere does it say you need full sentence quotes, right? You're focusing on important details and words here to earn the 3 and the 4. So the only difference between a 3 and the 4 is this is some and this is all, okay? And then down here on the sophistication point, notice it's very similar to the sophistication point from the rhetorical analysis. But here you'll look at, it identifies and explores the complexities and tensions across the sources. So when you put the sources in conversation with each other as a way to build your argument, that is how you can earn the sophistication point. So it's a little bit easier to identify how to do this in your synthesis essay than it would be in the other essays. Notice here it says making effective rhetorical choices that consistently strengthen the force and impact of your argument. And so if you look and you remember the persuasive appeals to emotion, to logic, or to your credibility or the credibility of your sources, and you use that throughout together, that would also be something to look at as well. And then here, articulating the implications or limitations of an argument by situating it within a broader context. And that will always be part of the sophistication when you're noticing these bigger global kind of points within your own personal argument. So again, always try to aim for a 4 or higher, which earns the qualifying score in the exam. And then when you get them scored in our class, this is the scoring guide. So if you score a 6, it's a 98, a 5 is a 90, 4, 85, etc. 3 is not a qualifying score or a 2, but they will still be passing scores in an AP course, especially through all of your essays. All right, so you have a discussion board today, which basically asks you, now that you've looked at it, what is one thing from the rubric that you feel is the most important thing to consider? And this is essentially a synthesis prompt, a very minimum one because you're not synthesizing the whole thing, and I only want you to focus on one thing, but you have to be able to go through all of it to be able to make that informed decision. So this is your attendance question for today. And then next week, we'll continue on with practicing synthesis prompts and continue looking at samples in the rubric. All right, have a great Friday, everybody. We'll see you soon.